Hey, awesome. Thanks for tuning in, YouTube people. So here we are. This is my YouTube channel. And of course, we're interviewing another awesome musical guest. I'd like to introduce Daniel House, who's with us today. And Daniel is from the Seattle scene, Pacific Northwest. He's been involved in music as long as I can remember. I remember seeing him in bands like Skin Yard and stuff like that. He was involved with CZ Records, and he's a wealth of knowledge about the Seattle scene. So we're really happy that he could tune in and be part of this interview today. Daniel, how you doing? Welcome.
I'm okay. Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Yeah. So why don't we get right into it, and let's talk about a little bit about who you are and what you're up to these days.
All right. Well, as you mentioned, I was one of the two co-founders of the band Skin Yard, along with Jack and Dino. And I was president and owner, and actually still am, of CZ Records. Took it over from Chris Hanzik in 1986 or 7, and have put out 90 some odd releases in that time. I haven't put anything out physically for about 20 years, and actually I'm just about to put out my first release since 2001, which is a vinyl-only record of my old band from, believe it or not, 1984, a band called 10 Minute Warning. It's actually an amazing lost record. It's Jack and Dino spent about the last 6 to 9 months basically remixing the whole thing and mastering and sequencing it from the original tapes. It was the band that Duff McKagan was in before he went to Los Angeles.
I was talking to a guy named Todd Kearns, who currently plays with Slash. And I interviewed him on a previous episode, and we were chatting a little bit about, the Seattle and the LA scene, and a little bit about Creddy. And we were talking about, we had heard that Punchy, the guitar player from Creddy, was actually, he tagged along with Duff, apparently, went to LA, to get famous.
Right.
And, he went down to, I believe he went to Berklee School of Music or something like that. Anyway, he was down in California for a while, but nothing ever really, transpired. Well, and I think,
can I say, if you went to Berklee School of Music, that's already a count against you if you want to be a successful guitarist in the Seattle grunge scene.
Well, there you go. That explains it.
That's it.
That is what happened to Creddy.
I've concluded your whole series for you.
It's over. That's it.
It's over.
Daniel he's exposed the whole thing. Like, let's just pack it in.
I know that this podcast is about a largely little known band. And I'm not ultimately aware of them recording. And maybe that's why they've completely vanished. But I don't know. Do they record, or is that the thing? Is there maybe like something that was unearthed?
That's a sort of a question mark, to be confirmed kind of a situation. I mean,
right.
I've received, so for those people that haven't been following along or don't know exactly where we're at, we're talking about a band called Creddy that I've been investigating. I stumbled upon them on the internet, some conversations on some forums about this band, this alleged band from Seattle, that was around back in the day, and people were trying to figure out, hey, whatever happened to that band,
I mean, I don't remember them that well. I kind of remember the singer dude. I don't remember his name.
Silas Marks.
Right. Okay. What I kind of remember from him was, well, this may not be a very popular thing to say, but who cares? I've never been known as someone who holds his tongue. So I seem to remember that guy as being kind of a dick, and kind of having a lot of attitude, and having, the thing about Seattle back then, like before all the major labels kind of, moved in en masse, when we were just a small, fairly insular scene, and everybody went to each other's shows, and we supported each other, we slept with each other's girlfriends, whatever.
As you do.
As you do. As we did, as I don't anymore.
No.
but you know, we were supportive, and there was humility. There was a sense of humility. Like, you know, none of us were, you know, in 84, 85, 86. We weren't really parenting around like rock stars, right? We were just like, we were grateful to be able to do what we were doing, and it was just cool and it was fun. And I kind of have memories of that Silas guy just kind of copping a rock star attitude, you know? Like,
Prematurely.
well, it's certainly premature if you're playing here and there and you haven't necessarily established yourself really as a major force in the scene. And it's certainly premature if you haven't even released a record.
Now, I heard a rumor.
Yeah.
You can probably speak to this, but I heard it from one of the guys that I interviewed, one of the musician guys, and he said that he had heard that Creddy Pool was originally going to be on the Deep Six compilation, but for some reason it just didn't come to fruition. Do you know anything about that at all?
Over the years, I've just kind of heard little murmurs and rumors, but I don't know. I mean, keep in mind, I'm not the one who made the decisions necessarily. That was Chris Hanzek. You know, I was the one responsible for talking Chris into getting the U-Men on the record. And, you know, I remember at first he's like, I don't know, they don't really seem to fit what I'm doing at the record. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that, but they're kind of the only band really that is sort of the clear king of the whole scene at that time. And we're talking, you know, 85. So I talked him into it. I'm like, dude, seriously, it'll help sell records, you know? And I don't know, you know, maybe Creddy Pool is a band that was being considered, and, you know, maybe it's my fault. Maybe I talked Chris into putting the U-Men on there, and maybe he bumped them, you know, I don't know.
Maybe that's what happened, or maybe that's what didn't happen.
Right? It could be. I was only so involved at that point.
Right.
I was mostly concerned with getting us on the record, and you know, and I talked Chris into getting U-Men on.
You know, who's to say that Creddy Pool wasn't one of those bands? I mean, we don't know. You know, they could have very much been like a living band that just, you know, played, you know, garage parties and backdoor parties and, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh, I know they played around, you know.
Now,
I remember seeing their name.
Yeah. So, okay. So you obviously played with Matt Cameron from Soundgarden and Pearl Jam back in the day in Skinyard. And
in a band before Skinyard as well.
What band was that?
I was in a band with Matt Cameron the year before Skinyard. At the same time, I was in 10-Minute Warning, actually. We were called Feedback. We were a 3-piece instrumental sort of cerebral band. I don't like using the word prog. We were proggy, but we weren't prog per se, but we certainly didn't fit in.
I also heard another rumor from somebody. I don't know if this is true or not. This is pertaining to the band Creddy Pool.
I know where you're going with this. Yeah, go ahead.
That Matt Cameron actually gave their autistic drummer drum lessons. I don't know what their connection was or how they knew each other or what the story is, but do you know anything about that?
I don't know much, but I believe it to be true. I don't know if it was extensive or just, you know, I mean, the thing that was cool about Matt then and even now is just how kind of approachable and down to earth he is, you know? So he was the kind of guy, like if somebody came up to him and said, oh my God, you know, you're the coolest drummer, which, you know, honestly he was. If somebody were to approach him and say, you know, would you consider maybe giving me some lessons or teaching me, you know, some basics, I could totally see him going, yeah, totally, you know, when you want to do it. And so, you know, I seem to remember hearing something about that. And I imagine, frankly, that he probably did. It doesn't seem like the kind of rumor that would just, you know, appear out of nowhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I think it all comes down to, I mean, as far as Creddy Pool goes, you know, basically in a nutshell, I heard they were just assholes, and you know, they couldn't they wouldn't show up for gigs. They wouldn't show up where they needed to. They wouldn't give people the time of day. Maybe they thought they were all that in a bag of chips. But I mean, that's sort of what I boiled it down to as like the common denominator.
I have limited memory, but I remember being put off by at least the singer dude.
Now, do you think that, attitude had a lot to do with it? Like if you were a good band, but you had a really bad attitude, could that have held you back in Seattle in those days?
Of course.
Well, there you go.
I think I can hold you back in most scenes.
So I guess you're not loading up the van anytime soon, are you? And heading out on tours where we can't look forward to any Skin Yard shows or any of those.
There'll never be another Skin Yard show, but I might end up being in a band, but I'll probably just play Southern California because that's where I live. So,
hey, Daniel, thank you so much for being my guest today and talking about cool stuff. It's great to get a little bit of insight to your background, the history of the Seattle scene, and what you're up to now. Best of luck with all of your future endeavors, the records you've got coming out and all that. And I hope that we catch you real soon. So take care, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, my friend.
Take care.